Oh, here we go. All right. I don't follow directions well, but if I try hard enough, I can get it.
All right, we're good to go. All right. Hi, I'm Zack. I'm an alcoholic. Can I move this? Is it going to mess it up? All right. Hi. Wow. Well, it is an honor to be speaking in another state. That is definitely a first for me. I'm not on the circuit or anything like that by any means. My home group is the Three Legacies group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Monday night at 8 o'clock, 45 Dalton Avenue in Buffalo, New York, if you're ever in the neighborhood and you want to come out and see us. Wow, my sobriety date is January 21st, 2008, and I have a home group. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor, and his sponsor has a sponsor, and his sponsor has a sponsor, and I'm a sponsor, and the guys I sponsor guys, and that's kind of a theme with us. That seems to be a big deal in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I have a service position inside my home group. I'm the sweeper. I sweep after the group. I just sweep things. There's never anything to sweep, and I just do it anyway, just so I know I'm doing my job. And then I also am involved in, I have a position outside of my home group. I'm the chair of serving as the chair of the Public Information Committee and the intergroup level out there. And we do everything with the intergroup, the district. I know a lot of places do it differently. I don't know, but so that's also been a joy. And I found that I need to be involved in all three legacies of this thing, or I'm missing out. And I did just this. Well, for a while, I didn't even do the steps kind of stuff, and I wasn't doing the recovery. But once I got involved in the service and the unity, really blew it wide open for me. And this is a really cool deal. And so if you're not doing that, you're probably missing out too, just based on my experience. So thanks. You can talk to me about that after the meeting if you don't agree with that. But anyway, because it might not be, I don't know. Anyhow, yeah, so I got sober in Oklahoma. Or I grew up in Oklahoma. I start back there. I drank. That's one of the things I did. And so you have to do that if you want to be an alcoholic. You have to have drank, and I did that. And I grew up in Oklahoma, and I have a brother and a sister, and they're older than me. And my mom, she raised my brother a certain way, and he grew up and got, moved out and had kids and got a great job and makes a whole bunch of money, very happy. And then she raised my sister the exact same way, and she married her 8th grade boyfriend after they grew up and got jobs and went to college. And she's a nurse, and he's a high school teacher and football coach. And they have a little house and a little dog, and that's perfect. And then she raised me the exact same way, and I wound up in a mental hospital by 16. And she's like, "What did I do differently with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just like to have a little bit more fun than them, I think." That's all I can, I don't know. So, I definitely think I'm wired a little differently than them two, and it shows with the way that I turned out. But the good thing about it is they've always been good, so I look really good now, even though I'm just kind of even, I'm not even with them yet, and they were like, "Wow, you're great, why can't you guys be more like your brother?" But so that's really turned out in my favor, in contrast from how I was living now. You just do it, you pay your bills on time, and you look like a hero, and so, I didn't take my first drink. I held off until age 12. And I just couldn't take it anymore, and I broke down. Now, I didn't even know what I was getting into. I was at the meeting last night, and someone was talking about Mad Dog 2020, and I got all excited because that was like one of the first things I drank. And I worked my way down from there after that. And it's just strange that, it was a rare occasion when I got a glass bottle or something. That was pretty neat, And, but it was just always, whatever I could get. I was never old enough to buy alcohol, so I had to just kind of get it however I could. And so, I was hanging out with some older folks trying to fit in with them, and they were drinking, and they said, "Bring $5 and you can drink with us." And I'd seen people drink my whole life, and they didn't drink in my house. There was no alcohol ever in my house, but I had seen it on TV and in restaurants, and I just never I knew, if you drink too much, you're probably not going to, but I always thought it must taste good at least, because look at these people drinking it up like crazy. Coke tastes good, but I never drank a 12-pack of Coke, and but people drink it up, and so I had my first beer. And I was just so disappointed. I'm like, "Wow, this is terrible. Why are you guys doing this?" But I really wanted to fit in, and it didn't do anything to me yet. And so I powered through it. I even poured some out just to look like I was keeping up with the guys. But something magical happened, and it only lasted a little bit before I was already passed into the blackout zone, because I just kept, I was just pounding them back, and And I didn't even realize for a long time that I blacked out. I thought if you lost consciousness, you were just on the ground somewhere. You weren't walking around doing stuff. And so I found out later I was like doing all kinds of stuff that I don't remember. And oh, sorry, I spilled a little bit on here. All right, I'll wipe it up later. So I drank, and I woke up in a closet at my friend's house that day. We were outside when I started drinking. I don't know how I get from here to here, but and they said, we're never drinking with you again. And that happened to me a bunch. I had to get new friends all the time. And so I just go and drink, and I just had such a good time with it, and I didn't realize, now I use language like I had an obsession to drink alcohol that I couldn't get out of my brain, and I just couldn't, I didn't feel right until I quenched that, and then I had this allergy now that whenever I drink, I never know what's going to happen. I might just go off and have, usually I have to get separated from alcohol. I have to run out or black out or, get arrested or, all kinds of different things happen. Or I usually just run out because I don't have enough, and the guys are bigger than me that have the beer, and I can't always steal it. And but there was very few times where I just was like, oh, I'm only having a few. That's never happened to me. I've just always drank, and it's been, even when it wasn't in my best interest to drink, I'd drink, and that was the only time I decided to have a few, is whenever I'm probably not going to be able to get away with 10 right now, but I could probably go do one, and I remember one time I did that, and I was about 3 hours away from home at my grandparents' house, and I was like, well, I can have one, but they only have, 30 beers in the fridge. They're going to notice if I really do, get drunk. And so I had one, and that didn't do anything to me, so I figured, well, I'll hide that at the bottom of the trash can. I can have one more. That surely won't hurt. And I stole another one and just kept going back there. It was very obvious that there was less beer in the fridge than before whenever they came back. And I got so drunk, it's noon, and my family's there, and I'm drunk, and I end up hitchhiking home because I didn't agree with the way that they lived their lives, and I got in a fight and had to cuss them all out just so they knew how I felt about it. And these are just things I do. And I really thought I was really a genius, and I just thought, man, I wish I wasn't so smart, and I could just dumb down to you guys' level and just live life and be, let me just go to work and go here and be another one of those mindless drones in society and the cogs of the machinery of America. And I had this all messed up thinking, in my head about how everyone was wrong and I was right, and I had this huge cross to bear of just knowing a little bit more than you guys about the world. So crazy delusional now that I look at it. And I just really was delusional. The way I perceived the world, and sometimes still perceive the world, I can't really go off. That's why I have to do 10, 11, and run stuff by people and do all these things just so I can maybe have a shot, here. And so I drank for a while. It progressed. That's one of the things that happens if you're an alcoholic. It usually just doesn't get better. You don't go out drinking, wake up from a blackout with more money than you left with, usually. And that was not I wound up in worse circumstances every time, and I'd build it back up for a little bit. I'd get the heat off, and then back and do it again. And so, and this just kind of continued on like that. And I mean, I could tell you stories all night, and I don't want to get into all of it. I wound up in hospitals. I wound up in psychiatrist's office trying to, explain to them, no, I'm not suicidal. I was having a good time. It got a little out of hand. and the insurance won't cover it if it was a suicide attempt now, And I'm like, no, I was just having a good time, I swear. And that they don't understand that coming from a 15-year-old sitting in his office. It's hard to run that past people, and it looked like it seemed perfectly normal to me because a few of my friends acted that way, and I didn't look outside of my little zone here of these are my people that I hang out with. We all do this kind of stuff. I'm sure it's pretty normal. And now I look at other family members and cousins that are growing up, and they're just playing football or in the school band, and I was just off running away to California at 15 or 16 and got a one-way Greyhound ticket, and I just do all kinds of crazy stuff. But this got out of hand pretty bad. In August of 2007, I was laying on the couch at about 4 in the morning sleeping, and these two big, huge Mexican guys are standing over me, and I wake up, and they say, we're the Martinez brothers, and we're here to take you to treatment. And if you're under 18, your parents can hire people to kidnap you. That's what happened to me. And they kidnapped me, That's their job. Wouldn't that be a great job just to go, we're going to go kidnap Corey, or, And they just go in, they park their car in my parents' garage. Child locks on the doors, and we walk out, and they also offered to zip tie me if I wanted, and I said no, I'll be okay, I'll opt out of that one. And they threw me a pack of smokes, and we drove off, and that's how I love hearing people talk about, oh, I'm here on my own, I'm on my own volition, the courts didn't send me. Well, yeah, your wife sent you. Oh, I don't care. Like, you got circumstances. Mine just happened to be kidnapping. Some people got the court. Some people got the judge. Some people got wife. And some people got... And, no one's here because they just, thought AA would be a great thing to do this summer. Like, I think I'll try that out. It's like a hobby. And that was not my experience. I didn't want to get sober. I didn't think I had a problem. I was, alcohol was definitely not the problem. Maybe my parents were the problem. Once I turned 18, I knew things would be better. Once I was 21, I'd definitely be in the clear. And, that girlfriend's the problem, or those people. If I hang out with them, I get in trouble. Or when I drink tequila, you don't want to see me drink tequila. That's the problem. I need to stop drinking that tequila. And I have every other thing but, this alcohol thing, which turns out after you get a little bit into that big book, they tell you that's not even your problem, which is just another confusing thing for me. But so I do all that, and I got kidnapped, and I went a few places. I went out to Utah for a little bit, but eventually I meandered my way out to Texarkana, Texas, in January of 2008, and that's my sobriety date, was when I got to this place out there. And when I got there, they handed me it was a rehab in Texarkana for kids under the 19 or something like that, and it was just in the middle of the neighborhood, a little house. And they gave me a big book and a 12 at 12, which I had never seen those before. I know nothing about Alcoholics Anonymous at this point. And they said, all right, here's what you're going to do. It's January. If you do what we say, you can be out of here by May. And I'm like, all right, I'll do whatever they say. Be out of here by May. Be drinking by June. I'll play it cool for a month, and I can just drink, I'll lay off the hard stuff. I'm just going to drink some beers for the rest of my life. That'll be great. Like, my goal was to be an old man sitting on a porch drinking. Like, I didn't have any high hopes for, like, millions of dollars. I just wanted a place to drink and sit there. Like, I really could see, if I looked far enough out, that's where I wanted to be, kind of thing. And I've met other people in AA, and they had the exact same thing, so I know I'm in the right place. That's kind of weird to have that as your life goal. And so... and they said, what you're going to do here, you're going to do all this stuff with your counselor, and we're going to take you to meetings, and you're going to go to these meetings, you're going to ask someone to be your sponsor, and you got to go through the first 5 steps with them. If you do all that, you can be out of here by May. I'm like, all right, so I'm going to do this AA thing, every intention of drinking again, and so I went, and I met some people at meetings, and I met this one guy named Jim, and he was a big biker guy, leathered, he worked at a munitions factory in Texas, and he just, he had a Freemasons tattoo on his thumb. He was just a really badass guy, bad butt guy. And I was thinking about, like, some people cuss from the podium, some people don't cuss from the podium, and some people say, well, it helps the newcomers because they relate to you more because you're cussing, they really like that, and I was torn. I was like, I don't know, a lot of people I like do, some of the people I like don't, I was driving one day, and I was like, no one's ever going to be offended if you don't cuss, but they might if you do, so I try not to, so I'll do my best. But anyway, so I got this guy, Jim. Sorry for that little digression there. I got this guy, Jim, to be my sponsor, and he would come once a week to sit down with me in the dining room of this little place, and he wasn't making any money as far as I could tell from doing this. I don't know what his game is here. I don't know, but he got a kick out of this thing. This is what he did for fun on the weekends. He'd come sit down with kids in this rehab and talk to them about this book that I didn't bring up here like don't tell my sponsor. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing a tie because my sponsor told me to wear a tie whenever I speak. Initially, that's why I dress up for AA because it's a big deal. I don't dress up for every meeting, but it's a big deal for me to save my life. And so I try to defer to anyone else's ideas if I can. That's a great idea for me because my sponsor's big thing is, why would you ever run it by you? Because once I hear something like a good action to take, I'll figure out why it's not a good idea. So I should just take the actions before I can figure out why not to take them. Anyway, okay, so sitting down with this guy, and we're reading this book, and he starts talking to me about his alcoholism. And at this time, I'm not an alcoholic. I mean, I have no idea. And he starts talking to me about his alcoholism, and I'm starting to relate to him, like, oh, I did that, and I did that, and I did that, and this is scary. Whenever you're sitting with someone and you're relating to them that's an alcoholic, and they're talking about their drinking, that's not a good, because that means you're an alcoholic, and you don't want that, because that's not a great thing to have. Thank you very much. Is that black?
It's hot.
All right, cool. My sponsor said if I don't drink black coffee, I'll get drunk. I swear. He'd said it as a joke, but because the old timers told him that when he came in, and I hated black coffee, so I just started trying to drink it, just like, oh, it's so bad, and I just pushed through it so I could come back and be like, yeah, I'm drinking black coffee, look, and he was like, I don't care, whatever, But now I tell other people they're not going to get sober if they don't drink black coffee, just as a joke. And this guy I sponsor just texted me a picture of some black coffee right before the meeting, so I said, you might have a shot. So I'm sitting down and I'm starting to relate to this guy quite a bit about the thing, and he's talking about these different things like the allergy and the obsession, and using all these words from 1935 that I don't really grasp, and all this, but he breaks it down in such a way that I can grasp it, and he talked about it to me as if you drink and you have this, if you're allergic to anything, you're allergic to peanut butter, and you have a bad reaction to it, well, just don't do it. If you can not drink, then don't say a prayer and go to a meeting. Just don't drink. Go watch Netflix. I don't care. But I have a problem. If I don't drink, I get crazy. I get itchy. I just have to do something. I don't know what it is. Now I do. I didn't at the time. I thought maybe I need to go on a walk. And I go outside and walk around the block 3 times, come back in, and I'm even worse. And it turns out I just needed to drink. I just get so. The way it looks to me is when I'm not drinking, people just get stupider and stupider and stupider around me, and I just can't stand you guys. And I'm like, and just the noises, anything, I just, and it just starts to freak me out, and I get very uncomfortable and annoyed with everything. And once I drink, it's just like, here I am again. Okay, this is good. I can deal with this. And that's kind of my thing. But when I drink, sometimes I go off and do crazy things or get myself into trouble or go too far with it, and I can't just stay at that spot that feels good. I end up just overshooting the mark every time. I'm going to go for it and see if it burns on off. Thank you, that's good. And so, this guy's doing all this with me, and we end up going through the first 5 steps, and I get out of there knowing I'm an alcoholic, and I moved to Enid, Oklahoma, because there's a halfway house there. I knew I didn't want to get drunk. I knew if you go to a halfway house, you can't get drunk. Yeah. I don't know, that's not my experience now, but I've seen a lot of people get drunk in there, heading up there. But it was all I knew at the time, and so I went out to Oklahoma, and I was in this halfway house for a while, and got a sponsor. He looked cool. He drove a cool car. His girlfriend was kind of cute. He had, he was kind of buff. I thought this would be a good guy, and so we talked about music a lot, and didn't do anything in the 12 steps at all, really, and so I hung out with him for a while, got another sponsor, went through the first 5 steps a few times, and thought, I'll just get some relief in the first 5 steps, and I can, if I need to, I'll come back, but in the meantime, I'll just go to lots of meetings, because that's what, in Oklahoma, where I was around, the people were just really big on just go to a whole lot of meetings, you'll be fine. Oh, we got an eating meeting coming up, go to that, clean out the ashtrays, and I did all this stuff, but I hadn't had an experience with the 12 steps yet, and around this time, I was in this group. I got kicked out of one meeting, the halfway house. They kicked me out of there, and there was a meeting inside the halfway house a couple times a week. And I talked to the owner of the halfway house, and I said, "Well, can I still come to the meeting?" He's like, "Well, you can come to the meeting, but you're not allowed on halfway house property. So if you can figure that one out, you can come." And so I haven't met anyone yet that's actually been kicked out of AA meeting before for good, but I'm still banned from this meeting. I'm not allowed to go back. I'll tell you what I did later. If it's not even that bad, he just found, I don't know. But yeah, so he kicked me. I even tried to go back a few years ago, and I went and I saw him, and he said, "Hey," and he motioned for me to go out to the garage, and I was like, "All right." And I walk out there, and he shuts the door behind me. And I'm like, man, he's serious. He didn't forget. He's like, does not want me here. So, but I was at this other group, and I was by far the youngest person there. I was about 18 and 17 or 18. And everyone else was like old, and I'm talking 30s, 40s, and even some of the 50s. Now, there was a right up, but I was just by far the youngest person there. And I took on this role of the mascot there. And it was just, oh, look at him go. He's only 18 and he's just doing all this stuff. He's picking up new people and bringing them, and he's going to every eating meeting. He brought a cobbler last week, all kinds of stuff. And I swear they almost killed me by, because what it seemed to me is that I didn't have to do the same stuff that they did, and that my alcoholism wasn't as bad as theirs, and I didn't have to take all the actions if I just would come around and do it, And it just seemed like, well, I'm so glad you got it young, and you had, good thing you didn't have to go through all the stuff we had to go through. I didn't come to AA because it was like good, I really didn't. I just packed all that into about 3 or 4 years, and you guys, I don't understand how people can come in here at 60 and not have died yet, because I almost died several times. And I'm thinking, maybe you're not an alcoholic. And they're like, you're not, you're too young. And I'm like, you're too old to be an alcoholic. There's no way. So I beg of you, please don't kill people. I know it's well-meaning, but my experience was that it really separated me, and all I need is a reason why I'm different from you guys, and I'm good. I can die, right then. And so I just need to be part of this thing. And once I had found people that didn't care what I looked like, what color, what age, or any of that, and they just said, you got alcoholism, you're screwed. You're doomed. You got nothing. You better do what we do. And I need people like that just to tell me the truth straight up and not put it any different for me than anyone else. And so I found a couple guys, they out there, and they said, hey, we're going to read this book, this big book. We incidentally named our meetings, our fellowship after it. And so we should be kind of lining up with the stuff in here, so we're just going to read it and take all the actions in it. And I said, well, that's kind of cool. I never really messed with the book much. I have a little bit. And so we go to this group, and we're sitting down, and line by line, just tearing it apart. Anything it said to do, we just were going to do it. And I did it one night with them and went back to my group. And I told them I was all excited. Yeah, Donnie and John, they got me going through this book. And they're like, Donnie and John? I was like, yeah. We're going line by line. They're like, whoa. They're big book thumpers. You stay away from those guys. They're crazy about that thing. And I was like, that was close, and I stopped hanging out with them. I really did. And I swear. And they did that to me, and I almost might have had a shot right then, and it would have been a year later that I made it out to New York and got hooked up with some people that just didn't hold back. Moved to New York. I moved to Buffalo from Oklahoma because someone offered me a $200 a month rent in a nice part of town. And I said, I'll take it, And this guy I grew up with moved out there, and his dad lived there. And his dad was in AA, and so I moved out there. All right. That one right? That one right? All right. 9:30, right?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Right. Lock up when you leave.
So I get out there, and I immediately don't do anything, but eventually fell in with some people that were gonna, there was just a lot of people out there that didn't care how young I was. There was way younger people out there than me, and I was no longer, it kind of made me mad because I was always babied, and now here I am, I'm 19 years old, and there's 15-year-olds around and hanging out, and I'm like, oh, dang it. And now I don't have that spot anymore that's so comfortable for me. And they put me right to work, and they gave me a service position. They said, do these things. And my sponsor, who came to be my sponsor, we sat down, we started doing that book thing again. We're reading the book, taking all the actions in it, see what happened, just as an experiment, And I was kind of hurting because, if you go that long without really having any spiritual things going on, just here and there, you start to get real crazy and romanticizing about bridge abutments when you're driving past them. Like, wow, that one looks like a good one. What would happen if I just pulled into it, And I just think like that. Like, man, they would be like, Zack was such a good guy. He moved here to New York, and he got in a tragic car accident. Definitely not his fault. And this really goes on in my head just because I'm, I just naturally, I don't have to do anything, and I just can think like that, but I was my ego is so big, I couldn't die and look bad after I died, so I had to make it look, if it was going to happen, I had to look like an accident where I still looked awesome, because my ego lives on way after I'm dead, my body could die, who cares, but that was kind of, and so I never did any of it, but I thought about it a whole bunch, and so this all just was going on, and he said, I was listening to a tape actually, and the guy was talking about being recovered, which is a word I used to have a lot of antagonism against the word recovered. What does that mean? Cured? Does that mean cured? I remember I was in a meeting in Austin, and this girl said, I'm so-and-so, I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I go, boop. Listen to this idiot talking about being recovered. Oh my God, doesn't she read the book? You can't be recovered. and it does say it like 24 times in there, and I didn't know that at the time because I didn't read the book. I was the one. And I had definition problems, and so my sponsor had an old dictionary, and we're reading the book, and he's saying, do you know what this means? Well, back in the day, this meant, recovered meant restored to a state of usefulness, which is not that bad of a definition. I can jive with that. It doesn't mean cured. It's like a plane crash, and I recovered the flight. I'm not safely landing on the ground, but I'm not crashing anymore. I'm kind of still going. And so I was like, okay, I can get behind that. And we just went through things and kind of turned just a couple degrees on a lot of things. And he was talking in the tape I was talking about, he said he was recovered, and what does that mean? And he said, well, I haven't thought about drinking or killing myself in about 15 years, so that's a pretty good start. And I was like, well, cool, I think I could get with that, and I haven't thought about drinking or killing myself in over close to 4 years now since all this went down. And it's a pretty cool deal, and it works, and I hadn't ever, at that time when I moved to New York, if I would have drank again, I couldn't even have called it relapsing because I hadn't given AA a shot yet, I hadn't been a member of a home group and had a service position, worked the 12 steps, sort of sponsoring people, got involved outside. That's AA. That's the whole thing that I need. And if you haven't done all that, you're not relapsing. You're just starting drinking again, And I hadn't even really given this program a shot all the way. And so I said, why not, And I went for it. And we went through all this stuff. And I thought I had a really good relationship with God at this time. And he kind of was like, well, it wouldn't hurt to look at your current agnosticism. I'm like, no, I'm not agnostic. You didn't hear me. I pray. I pray for things. And so I had lots of fears that I didn't pray about, and I had lots of instances where, well, God won't help me with that because sex is dirty and bad, and I can't ask about relationships, and I get money is evil, and I had all these hang-ups, and the word sin really bothered me, and I just had all this stuff, and I wasn't open-minded enough to spiritual terms to really get usefulness from other people that they could offer me. And so we overhauled all that and did the third step, fourth step, did a fifth step, and I don't want to go into all of it too much because y'all are step gurus. I don't want to bore you with this my thing. Speaking of, and then we got up to the ninth step, and this thing is drastic, and He wanted me to make a list of everyone I'd ever harmed. Get this, he wanted me to go talk to them all and just tell them I was wrong and give them back their money or whatever. And I just was like, are you sure? Every one of them? And he's like, yeah, probably. How free do you want to be? I don't know. And I was like, how free do you want to be? He would always ask me that. He's like, well, they don't want the money back. Well, how free do you want to be? It's not your money. You could still give it to someone else, And I'm like, no. And but all kinds of stuff. He was real. And I actually heard a guy, he said, they don't want to hear how great you're doing. They just want their VCR back, And I was like, that's kind of cool. But I did that. I just made a list, and I tried to make it as complete as possible. And some of them I would have caused more harm. I'm not saying make a list go, but some of them would have caused more harm, and I prayed about those and kept them there just in case that ever came up. But I had heard in meetings, there's all kinds of stuff that sounds cute that comes in, and you could just say it again because it sounds real cute and it's kind of catchy, and never think about what it actually means, and they're kind of myths, and they're kind of counterproductive toward the AA program in the book, and I could go on there's a lot of them, but this one I heard is never make amends to a drug dealer. I don't know where I heard that, but the guy I made amends to in North Carolina was a drug dealer, and I made amends to him. It was fine. I don't know. It was funny. A guy came to me. He had robbed a drug dealer, and he said, do I make amends to him? And someone else was like, well, no, you can't make amends to him. And I was like, well, what if you robbed a liquor store? Would you go make amends to? They're just going to sell alcohol to people and hurt people with it, and I was like, well, yeah. So anyway, I have no idea what the right answer to that is. It's probably a case-by-case basis. But I ended up having an inspiration to drive to North Carolina to this guy, and he had moved from Oklahoma out here. And I tried to get in touch with him, and my spring break was coming up, so I knew I had to do it at that window. And I couldn't get a hold of him, so I just started driving down here in the hopes that I could get in touch with him at some point. And right when I crossed the border into North Carolina, he Facebook messaged me back, and I got in touch with him and went out and found him. And I'm like a speaker tape enthusiast, and so I heard of this local guy named Tom something, and I said, I heard his group. I got to go check out that group. And I went out there to the group, and they said, oh, you're from out of town? You must be here for this CFC thing. And I guess I had just timed it right, and I came in for this perfect weekend for the corrections workshop, and that was just awesome thing. And I met Kristen. I met a bunch of cool people out here. And so men's has been the coolest part of the whole thing for me, I think, where you get to really see God happening around you and different things like that. And I remember one time I stole $70 out of the offering plate at a church. And these are just, this was just like a normal day for me. But this one day I stole $70 out of the offering plate. And the years go by, and I'm in New York now, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I got to go pay that church back. Probably should do that. And because I'm in this drastic program where you go make amends for stuff you did wrong. And so I go out there and sit down with the pastor of the church, and he knows me. My parents go to church there still, and he knows me. And said, just caught up with him, told him how I was doing. And I said, oh, by the way, a few years back, I stole $70 out of your offering plate, and I'd like to return it. I was wrong to do that. I should never have treated you like that, and I won't do that to people anymore. What can I do to make it right? I know it's up to you what I do with this money. I'm not just, if you want it, I got it right here in my back pocket. And he said, well, we're... Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just putting you on the spot. No, it's okay. And we gotta have fun. And he said, no, well, we're doing okay. We really got a lot of money going right now, and we just built a new wing to the church, and we're fine. What I'd rather you do is just go give it to someone who needs it, And I'm not saying go tell someone, oh, you look like you could use this, because that's rude. But just go give it to someone who needs it. You'll know who it is. You're going to see him today, and you'll know who it is. And he just had this inspiration. I'm like, all right, well, I'm on this spiritual adventure now after, and that's how it was. I mean, always if I can get into this spiritual adventure where it's like, I don't never know what's going to happen next, but, God's guiding me and I don't know what's going on. It's kind of delusional. It feels like I'm delusional at times, but the cool stuff that happens when I'm in that mode just kind of counteracts all the stuff that, oh, maybe I'm crazy, but there's been so many cool things happening while I'm on this spiritual adventure. So I kind of already know by now. He said, I'm going to see this guy. I'm probably going to see him. And so I go around Oklahoma City that day, catching up with old friends and seeing people, and went to a couple meetings. And it's getting late, and I'm with my friend Chelsea, and I hadn't seen anyone yet, and I was kind of not inspired to give this $70 to anyone. I just had it right in my pocket all night, waiting. And so we went to a bunch of meetings, and we were driving home, and she said, well, do you want to grab some food real quick? And I said, sure. And we went to Chili's, and I was like, why are we going to Chili's? I could go to Chili's in Buffalo. I want to go somewhere, But that's where we went. And so we get in there, and the waiter comes over, brings us our drinks, and asks if, we want any chips and queso. That's their deal. They always ask if you want any chips and queso. And I said, how much is it? He's like, I want $3. I said, well, I'm feeling adventurous, and I'll take it. And he's like, all right. And he comes back with the chips and queso, and he goes, I was wrong. That'll be $70. And I was like, did you say $70? And the guy told me, the pastor told me, like, whenever you give it to a person, tell them it's because you love God, not because they look like they need it. And I started cussing. I'm like, it's because I fucking love God, and don't ask me any questions. I'm just giving you this money because I love God. I don't know what the odds of him saying $70 are. And he came back. He's like, I'm just kidding. It was $3. I just wanted to say 70 just to mess with you a little bit. You seem like a fun guy. And and I'm like, well, I just knew I'd probably give it to the guy. And I'm freaking out. I feel like I've been watching like Chris Blaine, Street Magic kind of thing. David Blaine, Street Magic, sorry. Chris Angel, get them confused. Mind freak. And so I go outside, I'm smoking a cigarette and freaking out. And I go back in, and she looks kind of confused too. Like, how did he know about the $70 thing? That was weird. And it turns out he just was making a joke, and it just happened to be the exact number that I wanted to hear, so I gave it to him, and he got $70 out of the deal. But if it was just that'd be kind of weird. But he goes, you can't just give me this money. You got to tell me what happened. Why are you giving me this money? This is very strange to me. You said you love God. You said you can love God. And that's also strange. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I got excited. And I said, well, are you spiritual? Are you religious or anything? And he's like, yeah, me and my fiance just started going back to church. And so I said, okay, well, I'm doing this AA thing and making amends. And the guy told me I told him the whole story. And he goes, that is so weird. You said you stole it out of an offering plate, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, right when you handed it to me, before you said any of this, me and my fiance have been going back to church like I said, and every time the basket goes around, I never put anything in. And they always talk about, oh, you'll get it back tenfold. And I just I don't believe that crap, And he goes, but right when you handed it to me, I immediately thought of that. And now I found out you took it out of a church basket. And I was like, oh, that's, I couldn't make this stuff up. And I'm sitting there thinking it's going to be a bum, And I, so God works in different ways that I don't know what's going on. But that's kind of, that was cool to me. I don't know if everyone finds that as cool. There's cooler ones, but that one was just interesting to me. I thought that was very fun of God to do something like that for me. And felt special. And so I've made tons of other ones. And this woman in particular that they come back to haunt you, these things do. Because some of them are like, well, just give me the $200 and a set of golf clubs back and we'll call it straight. And but others, they could say something really mean and demanding. And it doesn't sound that bad, but this, if you've ever heard this one, just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's not a big deal at first. And then I thought someone told me, no, you have to keep doing what you're doing now to hold up your end of that bargain. And I'm like, oh, that's the worst one. I'd rather give you $150 and have the option of not keep doing what I'm doing, maybe. And so now I have to keep doing what I'm doing. And tons of people told me that. And so now I have to do that. And this one woman, I made amends to her, and she just said, no, there's nothing, just, keep doing what you're doing, that thing. And gave her a hug, and I was leaving, and I was like, and if there's ever anything you need, if there's anything I can do to make it right, just let me know. And she goes, actually, go get a degree. Go get a college degree. Like, why? I didn't say anything about college in this thing. But they come back to haunt you, and so that's been like a recurring one that, it was just like a real small event thing. But there keeps coming up these times where, like, one time I was applying for college, and I didn't really particularly want to go, but I needed a new schedule for work and stuff, and so I did. And it came down to where I had to put my 2 weeks notice in, or maybe I didn't know if I was going to get into college. I didn't know if the loans were going to come through or not. And so I said, oh, and I was telling someone about that men's story, and this lady said, yeah, you got to get a degree. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just put in my 2 weeks, because God's definitely going to get me in. If she wants me to get a degree, it's going to happen. And so I just put in my 2 weeks, and the next day I find out, yep, you're going to school. And so that one's been, I'm in engineering school, and it's very demanding and a lot of math, and I hate sometimes. I love it, but it's also like, I wish I could just quit. And about once a month I decide I'm done, not doing school anymore, and I think of that woman, and I'm like, dang it, okay, I'll do my homework, And that one's probably helped me more than any of the other, like just that. It's been amazing. But so, he after the 7th step, he told me to start looking for someone to sponsor. So go out and look for a pigeon, go get one. And I'm like, no one wants me to be their sponsor. He's like, well, you're not going to find one yet. Just start looking now. By the time you get to 12, you might have a shot. And but so I'm looking around and trying to do all that, and doing 10 and 11, and trying to meditate and finding different ways to do that kind of stuff. And I've never been good at this, sitting quietly saying and some people do that, and I don't know. And so the way I've been looking at it lately, as you ever heard of premeditated murder? It's where you think about it and then you go do it, And so I just premeditate my day. I'm not killing anyone usually, but I just, that kind of meditation, just to think of it, just contemplate my day with God and bring God in and say, kind of like the book says, and that works out really good for me. I just am terrible at this sitting quietly stuff, and I pause and different things, but and I have to change it up. Would you grab me one? I'm mean. I don't know. God. Yeah. You're from Oklahoma? Nice. Where at? Noble? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I don't even know anything about Noble. I'm from Oklahoma City, though, so we just...
I was born in Bricktown.
Oh, were you? Cool. All right, Bricktown's good. Bricktown's good. There's a baseball thing, and there's all kinds of... There's a Hooters down there, too. And, yeah. That's why he likes it. All right. But, where was I? Well, anyway, so I started this sponsorship deal, which has been the coolest. Man, if it wasn't for the guy that sponsor, I don't know where I'd be right now. Really, I hear people say that, and I give it lip service and stuff like that. Oh, because I used to really think, oh, they so need me. I got that guy sober. Like, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me, you ungrateful son of a. And it just has like brought me down to size, or just kept me roped in every time, because I'm liable to just run off there. All I have to do is nothing, and I just wake up selfish, and I just wake up selfish pretty much every day, and I got to go to God every day. That's just how I start out, in a selfish foot, and so I got to undo that right at the beginning of the day. But if I do nothing, I will just wind up back watching Netflix and not caring and not answering my phone, and pretty soon drinking, and that's how I go. And no, don't worry, you're good. I'm not getting you. I already did it once. Got a little bit of time left. Yeah. So, but these guys, I mean, it really turned me from this other side of AA where I was always, well, I need a meeting. I really need a meeting today. I'm all squirrely. The things are going on up here, and it's really turned me into this other side of AA where I'm on the other side grabbing people and bringing them in, and it totally warped the whole thing for me. Where I'm a useful member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I need to get around you folks, but it's just changed it a little bit to where I feel really like I'm a part of something that's saving lives, and it's a great adventure. Because I was talking to my sponsor one day about my brother. He makes about $120,000 a year, and I make about $15,000 a year or something like that. And I said, I got to make more than him, because I just always thought that I had to outdo them, and my sponsor said, why? And I was like, I don't know. I just thought I had to make more than him so I could make my parents more proud, outdo him or something like that. And he goes, Zach, you get to watch lives be recreated. People dying get to live again. And you'll probably make a pile while you're at it, but like all these people are never going to get to do that. You go up to someone on the street and ask them, what's the purpose of your life? They'll say, what do you mean? Exactly. A lot of people might not be able to answer that, but if you ask me, I've just been ingrained. I mean, I help drunks. That's what I'm useful. I'm very effective at that because of my experience as a drunk, that I have a unique ability to reach people that otherwise can't be reached because they're liars and they won't tell the truth to anybody. But I can get in there and just cut them right in half because I've been there and I know it. And I can really reach out to someone like that, and I'm useful to them. And that's what's happened to me, and people have just saw right through all my stuff. How you doing? Good? Bull crap. And I need those people to hold me accountable and stuff like that, because I used to have these friendships that were like, hey, you don't call me on my crap, I won't call you on your crap. We're good. And man, now I'm in a position where all my friends are like, hey, I'm going to call you on everything, and you call me on everything, and maybe we'll get better. And I don't do it with everyone, and it's not everyone likes that, And my group's just one that we show up 30 minutes early or an hour early, and we stay an hour late, and we're out to eat afterward. And Monday, I'm just blocked off. I don't make other plans on Monday. It's a big night for me. It's a big deal. And we're just there for each other, always talking. Oh, he's speaking out there. Well, let's go out there, And we're real tight-knit in that way. And we really hold each other accountable to the best that we can. And I really need that stuff. And I will shut up in just a second, but I swear. But this sponsorship deal, I mean, if you're not doing it, it's my responsibility to go out there and find someone to help, because they might have used every ounce of willingness they got just to get here, tonight. Calling someone on the phone, they might not have it left, They might be all they got just to get their ass in the chair, And so I'm up. Hey, I don't just ask people and give them my number and write it on a card. I get their number and I call them the next day. I'll pester you. If you don't like it, I'll leave you alone after that. But I'm at least give you a shot. And I have to get their phone number, give it back, and all that. And I'm going up to them. Hey, who's your sponsor? Oh, what's your home group? I don't ask things in a rude way. I just, is this your home group? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's your sponsor over there? No? Oh, you don't have a sponsor? Wow, why not? What are you doing in Alcoholics Anonymous? Not working the steps. This is a 12-step program. Well, you'd be crazy to be here and not do this 12 steps. That's kind of doesn't make any sense. No offense. Takes all kinds. That's just my opinion. That's just opinion. That's not AA's view on things. That is Zack's view. A lot of this has been, so just filter it through that mindset. But, I used to hear people get up there at the end of their talk and say, you can't get from where I was to where I am without grace. You cannot do it. And all these guys were lawyers, and they had wives and kids and $1 million, and they were sponsoring 27 guys and had all this crazy stuff happen to them. And I was like, man, I wish I could say that, And it occurred to me one day, like, I could definitely say that, because if you're an alcoholic, you're screwed. You have no shot whatsoever. And I'm standing here, I haven't thought about killing myself or drinking in 4 years, and I help people, sponsor guys. I'm a part of something that works, and I'm useful to people. And you can't get there from where I was without God, without grace. And I had nothing to do with it. I got kidnapped, I didn't want to be here. So I can't take any credit for any of it, I just kind of was willing enough and desperate enough because of the circumstances I got myself in to just take a little bit of action and get vastly overpaid for it. And I will shut up. Thank you. It's been an honor to be out here.